Okay, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Sarah, and this is my channel, Novel Serendipity. This is going to be my June wrap-up. This is the month that I hosted. Only a couple people participated, but that's totally okay. It was more for me than anything, and then there was a couple people that just kind of joined me, but it was for the Currently Reading-a-thon, which I will link the Twitter page down below, because I plan on doing it every June and December. So if you're someone like me that has like 10 to 15 currently reading books on like your Goodreads that you're like currently reading, even if you put it down a couple months ago but plan to go back, it might be something for you. Someone just started their motorcycle, and I'm not gonna apologize because it's not my fault. He'll be leaving soon. He's putting on riding gloves, closed his garage door. He's looking around aimlessly. Come on. But yeah, check out that link for Currently Reading-a-thon. Might help you out. He's getting on. He's fixing his pants. There he goes. Okay, so I completed 7 books in June. That is so good for me. It was a total of 1,808 pages read. It was 6 physically read books and 1 manga that I physically read, obviously. There was 1 3-star read, 2 4-star reads, and 4 5-star reads. So I had a very good reading month. I am actually going to go in the order of which I read them because I prefer it that way. But the first one I meant to finish before or during BookCon and just never did. I actually finished it on my plane ride home from BookCon, but then that was already like mid-June. So I technically finished it in June. But that is The Devouring Gray by Christine Lynn Herman. I gave this 4 stars, and so it was one of my May runoff books. So technically currently reading, sort of. So I started off this book with really high expectations. BookTube and like Book Twitter and pretty much everyone was talking about this book, and it was one of those books that I imagined it being 5+ stars, and maybe that's why I didn't like it as much. I don't usually read books that are super hyped up because my expectations get so high. I usually wait a couple months before I read them. So I felt the world lacking in this book was a little slack, or like I felt like it was missing something. I can't really pinpoint the feeling, but I just felt like it was missing something in particular that I just really didn't necessarily enjoy. World building part was because it all took place in one town, and maybe there's just only so much you can say about one location, but I felt like the storyline and characters really made up for what I felt was lacking at the beginning, especially when I was trying to get a feel for where the characters were, and just I wasn't connecting emotionally with the location. Some of the characters were a little bit more developed and well-rounded than some of the other ones, and when you have a group of friends and all the characters, well, they're like frenemies, but when you have a group of characters and they're all supposed to be working together, I guess in this instance, I really like when they're all kind of well thought out together, but like half of them were well thought out and like half of them I felt like weren't, and they were also lacking something a little bit. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it was. There was just something about this book where I wasn't connecting to the characters, I wasn't connecting to the storyline, and I enjoyed the book, don't get me wrong, that's why I'm giving it 4 stars. There's just something, like if someone like spoke it to me, it would click in my head right away. It's just there was something in this book that I felt like wasn't there. One thing I really did like about the characters was the character relationships. The characters passed with each other, or the way they interacted in the present, and the hint of what might come later in the series. There was something definitely about the characters' relationships that I just adored. I immensely enjoyed the bi representation, and not only because there was bi representation, but the fact that there were bi characters, but they ended up with opposite sex, just because I feel like there's a lot of disconnect with just people in general with being bi, but still being attracted to the opposite sex. I don't know why people struggle with that concept so much. So I would have liked some same-sex relationships, but it was refreshing to have a bi character and then have them still be with an opposite sex character. I mean, not like together, but like a hint of a future together, that kind of thing. And when we talk about characters, can we just give Isaac's character a big ol' hug, because I need him in my life. You can tell that this is book 1 in a series because it left out a lot, I felt like, and I don't know if this is purposely something that the author wants to circle back to later on, but in my case personally, I didn't like all the questions, and then I didn't like all the questions that were unanswered at the end of the book. I felt like as I was reading, I was getting more questions and no answers, and then even at the end of the book, I felt like I was being unsatisfied. The last lack of information almost seemed like a mistake, but maybe with book 2 we'll get some answers and kind of a feel for kind of where the series is going. But for right now, it was a very indulgent read. I really liked, I guess you could call it, the magic system, and with the feel with the characters and the character relationships, it was a really nice read. I really did enjoy it. I felt like the book itself was set up really nicely, and it is a book I really enjoyed. When you go into a book with really high expectations, sometimes you just expect more than what they're willing to give you. The storyline and characters really kept me interested and invested, even though I only became like emotionally attached to like one character. I do recommend this book if the question aspects don't bother you. It's something that I don't particularly like with a lot of them, but it didn't bother me as much as I thought it would in this book. So 4 out of 5 stars. It was a really indulgent read, and I am really looking forward to book 2. Next is The Traitor's Kiss by Erin Betty. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars, and it was one of my currently reading-a-thon books. So this is one that I started quite a bit of time ago, and I just really love this book. This completed the prompt for books that I'm most excited to finish that I'm already currently reading. I haven't loved a book so much in a really long time, and I gave this like flat 5+ stars. I love this book. I am currently reading book number 2, and I pre-ordered book number 3. The characters were everything I wanted them to be. Sage is the main character, and she is not marriageable. So she is sent to a matchmaker to basically help her be her apprentice. Sage herself is sharp-tongued, high-spirited, and stubborn, and it's everything I love in a female protagonist. I was reading some reviews about the anti-feminism in this book, and I'm going to take this time to tell you why I disagree. Sage herself becomes an apprentice to a matchmaker after that same matchmaker was like, I can't marry you off. It's impossible. Sage has to go through being told that she's not good enough and that no one will ever love her and she'll never find anyone. And then the matchmaker is like, hey, go undercover for me. I need to know more about these girls and so I can properly match them with suitable partners. She befriends one of these women and then even works towards becoming a woman herself who is trying to do good and be a good friend. She also wants to match her friend and like all of the ladies with partners that they can be happy with. She might not be in the position at that very moment to do good and be a good friend and be a good matchmaker, but she does everything in her power to do so. She is thrown into this high-class society as a commoner, as an orphan, and of course that's going to show, just like in our society today, there's different classes, and when you throw in either a high class into a low class or a low class person up into a high class society, it's going to show. They're different. Whether or not we want to admit it or not, it's something that is here. Just because you would put me into a high-class society ball, of course I would know what to do. It's one of those natural things. A lot of the ladies that she is trying to match dislike her basically for her status. And again, this is something that happens naturally all the time. And it's what Sage does with basically how she's treated and how she reacts and how she grows as a human being that I really appreciate. Not to mention that she proves time and time again that she's the smartest person in basically her group and one of the smartest people in the story. She is the female protagonist's hero. Like, yes. So, I mean, you go into that book probably already knowing that, and she saves the day. And it's not that she has a man helping her save the day. She literally saves the day. And if that isn't the most feminist thing ever, like, I don't know what is. And so I'm actually completely just flabbergasted by the reviews saying that this is anti-feminism. It's a female that uses her brains and wits to save everyone. I'm confused. And now that that's out of the way, the plot itself had me interested from the very beginning. To be completely honest, I'm also not sure why it took me so long to finish this book because I adored it 100%. It was one of those books that immediately after you finished it, at least me, I went online and I bought book 2 right away, like instantly. The plot itself was fast-paced with smart plays by Sage herself and a couple other characters, and it had a few good action scenes thrown in for good measure. The love interests itself was more of a slow burn than an instant love, and it was almost like it was very complex in that one of the characters didn't know the other character, and yeah, it was complicated, but it added to like the slow burn instant love in book 1 trope, and it was done differently and uniquely, and it made me appreciate the book even more. This is definitely one of my favorite books of the year so far. Next, I finished Naruto Volume 2 by Musashi Masashi Kishimoto. I am constantly surprised by the detail that Masashi Kishimoto puts into his manga, and it's gorgeous. I love how cut and dried the art style is. It's intense, but is a smooth read all the same. The storyline, since I've watched all of Naruto, I'm actually wearing my Kurama shirt today. If you watch my vlog, when it comes out next week, you will see that I have my Naruto calendar, and this month is Kakashi, and I love Kakashi 100%. But there's just... I know where the story is going, and I know how complex it's going to be, and so reading it for the first time ever, I can see hints of things that are going to come back later, and I'm just so excited for it. I love Naruto so much. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. This was one of my June reads, so I picked it up and finished it in June, and yeah, so I love it so much. Next is another one of my currently reading-a-thon books, and this one was to finish one of your currently reading books that has been on your currently reading list the longest. So the one I started back in August of 2018, I finished it, and it was Cyril Regrets Be Better Than Yesterday by Apollo Ono. He is my favorite Olympic speed skater. You have seen this on TBRs for months now. I finally finished it. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars because I usually give autobiographies 5 out of 5 stars. Like, what are you gonna say? That someone's life wasn't interesting enough for you? The book started and ended with his father and everything his father has done for him and with him, and the fact that his father was a single parent and an immigrant. Just, it spoke so much to me. He gives to his father, how much credit he gives his father for being so amazing. And so I finally finished this. I'm just, yes. I want his father to also be my father, even though I adore my father. Does that make sense? Sometimes when people become famous, they forget that they should or could probably credit people that have helped them along the way. Apollo does not shy away from that. He knows and embraces the fact that his father has done so much for him, and he wouldn't be the man he is today, or probably even the Olympic speed skater he is today without his father. Short track speed skating will forever be my favorite Olympic sport, and it's all because of Apollo Ono. I've followed him ever since I was in high school. Right at the beginning of the book, he states that he trained in Wisconsin, and I loved following his story. And his writing makes reading a short track race almost as interesting and nerve-wracking as in watching it on the television. At some points in the book, my heart was racing a little bit faster than I would have thought reading about a sport, but it happened. Here we are. Also, the way he talks about dedication, motivation, when you're fighting with your own head and mind and getting past those hurdles themselves. At every page, I felt motivated. I felt like, hey, I can go and do something, or hey, I can go do something that I have been struggling with for a really long time, or wow, my mind itself doesn't have to be one of the walls keeping me back from things that I want to do. And it's something that his writing it really helped with all of that. I feel 10 times more motivated and dedicated to even BookTube because at the beginning of every single one of his chapters, he has basically this motivational page. The font is bigger and it just takes up a page, and after reading just that one page alone at the beginning of every chapter, I was like, wow, yes. So yes, if you want to be motivated, or you want to work on your dedication through things, or you're not quite sure how to get past that mental block in your mind when things get hard or things get difficult, read this book. It might help you. But yes, 5 out of 5 stars. I love Apollo. The next book was also a May runoff, so also a currently reading book, I guess. It just didn't fit into one of my prompts, but this is my buddy read with Noria from Noria Reads. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars, and it is City Abreast by S.A. Chakraborty. I will never say that name right, and I apologize. But the first chapter, I love Nari. That's how I say her name in my head, but I loved her right away. She is smart, she is sassy, like I was saying from The Trader's Kiss. My favorite thing in a female protagonist, I love when you have a stubborn, smart, sassy, sharp-tongued female protagonist. I just love it, and I did love this book. If we're gonna go on with characters, I am Team Dara. I know some people are Team Ali, but I am Team Dara Dara. I love him. I just do. So you either love Dara or you love Ali. I feel like you either love one or the other when it comes to the male protagonist in this book. But I'm Team Dara, and for those of us that are Team Dara, I feel like he's a character you grow to love. He's a powerful being that when he finally does show feeling, like midway through the book, you can't help but smile. I love Dara. Noria is Team Ali, so we are in different sides of this divide, but it makes the buddy read that much more interesting because we have like conflicting feelings and thoughts. I feel like when she says something, I'm like, oh yeah, I can see that, and I really hope that when I say something about my point of view that she thinks the same thing, and I feel like it opens up a few other thoughts while buddy reading a book when you both have different feelings or prefer different characters, but we both adore Nari, so it's all okay, because, I mean, she needs to be protected. She is she. The beginning of this book was actually quite slow, something that I don't do well with, but in this instance, the characters just had me right off the bat that I really didn't mind. When it started getting more interesting and when things started happening, I was really excited, but the beginning, the slowness of the story didn't bother me as other books when that happens does, but it is the only reason I'm giving it a 4 out of 5 stars instead of a 5 out of 5 stars. So otherwise, I just adore this book so much. The court politics were intriguing. I do enjoy good court politics, and I enjoyed it in this book just like I do any other books. I felt like part of it was a little bit different. This is set in like the Middle East, Africa, a little bit of both, I guess, because it takes place beginning in Egypt, and so yeah, it's kind of like in that vicinity, so like deserts and stuff like that, and the men and women wear headdresses, so it has a different feel. It's also an adult fantasy, so it's something that this is the first time I've ever read adult fantasy, so it's something that I had to get into a little bit, and the density of the read is definitely a lot more intense than YA, so it's something that I had to get into. Midway through the book, I was completely enamored. The farther we got into this book, the better it got, and then the ending just blew me away, and so yes, 4 out of 5 stars. I highly recommend. Next was another buddy read with Noria from Noria Reads. We are not buddy reading this month, but we will be buddy reading 2 books next month, so either we're buddy reading 2 books or yeah. So technically we've been buddy reading since February, and I just adore her so much. But it was Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. We want to read all the Laini Taylor books together, so this one and Muse of Nightmares are on our list, definitely. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. I love this book. I love this book way more than I thought I was going to because I've heard conflicting things, and the people that did like the books seem to have really similar tastes in writing styles than I do. So this book also is a little bit more dense. It was a little bit slower, but it was like enjoying chocolate, like a Dove chocolate candy in your mouth and just letting it melt. And that's how this book felt. It started off slow, yes, but the writing was so magical that I was intrigued, even knowing I felt like nothing was happening. I wanted to keep reading, and that itself is magical. Laini Taylor's writing is just gorgeous, and yeah, I think I have 1 book left that I need to read, which is Muse of Nightmares. I don't know if she has any more, but if she does, I will read them. She's going to be an instant buy for me for the rest of my life. The book, the characters, the setting, the plot, they were so well thought out and flushed. They were so perfect. Everything about it was just, everything was thought of, and the writing just brought it all together. Everything she writes, I can imagine in my head, so I can picture the characters, I can picture the giant flying angel, like I can picture the library that Laszlo like lives and works in. I can picture everything because her writing is that good. I can even picture the cake on the windowsills, which probably isn't good because then I wanted cake during this entire book. And honestly, I don't want to say too much about this book because I feel like it's one of those books that you should go into blind and just let Laini Taylor build a world in your head with her writing and just let the story take shape. Because that's how you should go into this book. And yeah, honestly, that's all I'm going to say about it. 5 out of 5 stars. It's amazing. The last one was my last read of the month. I gave it 3 stars. It was one of my currently reading books. It was the one where I had the least amount of pages left, but on Goodreads, I had the wrong edition selected, and so that was a lie. Instead of having like 90 pages left, I actually had like almost 200 pages left, but that was Crazy Rich Asians by Kevin Kwan. I gave this 3 out of 5 stars. I didn't particularly enjoy this at all. The book and the writing style is so descriptive that I had to read a paragraph of what the curtains look like and so on and so forth, which in the writing, like, it wasn't necessarily bad. It was just, I felt like at times it was taking away from the story. It was taking away from the characters. In the movie adaptation, it totally works because, like, you can make things from this book gorgeous. And if you've ever seen the movie, then you understand. So we follow the main character, Rachel. She is going to Singapore to meet her boyfriend's family and go to a wedding that he's in. And she has no idea that they are filthy rich, which if you're going to be dating a guy for like 2 years or so, you should probably figure that out. It seems like a trust thing also, but her boyfriend doesn't tell her, and so she goes into this world not knowing, completely blind, and is basically ambushed. And for the story, for being so overdramatic and over the top, Nick, Rachel's boyfriend, is just oblivious to everything, like all these things that are happening to Rachel and basically his family being the root cause of it, and just has no idea until like the very end when she's like, oh, this has been happening. So where if he just opened his eyes, he would have saw it. And yeah. And at times, like, I know it's following Rachel, but at sometimes, like, Nick didn't even really seem like a character to me. He almost seemed like a background character. But when you're going into a book where it's about a girl and her boyfriend, and like that's the book, I feel like his character wasn't as fleshed out as it should have been. The characters that were talked about, Rachel, I think her mother, and Nick's mother, Rachel's friend, they were all very thought out. They were very good, descriptive, they were flushed, and yeah, there was something about Nick's character that, like, he was supposed to be one of the main characters, I feel like, and he was just like in the background, all blurred out, and like, who's Nick? About halfway through the book, I did start enjoying the book more. It is after I saw the movie. The ending is different, and we'll get to that, but I did start enjoying it a little bit more, and I don't know if it's because I saw the movie, saw how gorgeous it was, and then could better picture the book and the setting, because even with all the description in this book, I was having a hard time picturing things, and I think maybe in the back of my mind that the movie and the visuals helped place me into the book itself. I never say this because I have a hard time finishing or even reading books after I've seen the movies, like Harry Potter. I'm just now reading it for the first time at 26 because I've already seen it. And I have a hard time reading books when I already know what's going to happen, but I almost recommend watching the movie first and then reading this book, because I had a very hard time connecting with where she was and what it looked like. And it, I think, made it so there was a disconnect between me and my reading. So I almost recommend watching the movie first. This was an entertaining read. At some points, it was like laugh out loud funny. There was a lot of things that happened where I was like, oh, okay. The ending, I preferred the movie over the book, and the only thing I'm going to say is because I feel like Rachel in the ending in the movie was, she got to show her smarts, she got to show her independence, she got to show how loving she is and how much she cares about Nick to his mother, who is just a horrible human being, and I felt like it meant more. The ending to this book, I felt like it was good, it just, there was something missing feelings-wise. The one thing I did like about the ending of this book is that it goes in a little bit more about Rachel's father and the past of her father that the movie didn't quite touch on as much as I think it should have. Pros and cons to both endings, but it's something that I'm not quite sure of at this moment. There is something that I was looking for going into this book that I just didn't get, and I don't know if it's because I'm an international studies major, that's what I have my bachelor's in. My emphasis was in Asian studies. I adore Asian culture. I want to travel almost everywhere in Asia, and so there was something in this book that I didn't get that I wanted to, and I'm not sure if it was the storyline, the characters, or the writing style, and that is why I'm giving it 3 out of 5 stars. And that is it. So I completed 3 out of the 6 book challenges, and then 2 out of the 4 extra challenges. And I think that one was watch 5 booktube videos in a row and comment on them. Catch up on comments, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So that is 5 out of 10 of my prompts. And so the reward for these were basically going out and buying books guilt-free. So 5 prompts meant that I can go buy 3 books guilt-free. And so if you watch my upcoming vlog, those book buys will be there. But yeah, so there is my wrap-up. I haven't done a monthly wrap-up in a very long time. I kind of have fallen off the face of booktube the past couple of months, but I am back and ready to go, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know what you think down below. I feel like I'm really bad at wrap-ups, but yes, please check in with me. Comment and like down below, and don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell button, and I'll see you guys all later. All the love. Bye.